Dobroje Utro, hier ist gerade 10 Uhr morgens. I am Volko, and Dan has invited me to spend a few minutes with you talking about my next game design to hit the field, Nevsky. Nevsky is not a coin series game, nor is it a card-driven game like my earlier designs, Wilderness War and Labyrinth. It is instead the first volume in what I intend to be a new series that looks at medieval warfare at the operational level. And I call that series Levy and Campaign because that's what players do in each of 2 segments of every turn: levy their armies and then command them on campaign in the field. You can go to the GMT Games P500 page for the game Nevsky and read all about the setting and what the game is about and the story it's trying to tell. And you can read several articles in Inside GMT about the mechanics of the game. How does gameplay work in quite some detail. So instead of that, what I'd like to talk about today is just 3 aspects of Nevsky that are atypical of war games and different from other games that I've designed. And the first of those is how we represent the lords in the game. Medieval lords are really the focus of play in the Levy and Campaign series, as they were in medieval warfare. And on the game board, each lord is represented by a cylinder piece with a coat of arms representing that lord on it, and these pieces move across the map. To show in detail what the forces are and other capabilities that that lord is bringing to play, I used these mats that you see on either side of the game board. These will be 5-inch square thick cardboard mats that show for each lord various military units that are wooden pieces, vassals that bring additional units to the field, assets like coin and provender and transport, and special capabilities that are represented by playing cards that you see tucked under these mats. For example, each lord on his map will have up to 2 cards that the lord can tuck under the near edge of the map and show special things like crossbowmen or Russian rivercraft or warrior monks or what have you. And so that leaves the setup of the game board quite flexible when you lay it out on your table. I've laid it out here in a fairly typical situation during a scenario, and it's the point of view that you would have if you were playing the game all by yourself. You're taking both sides, the Teutons and the Russians. So you can put the mats of either side on either side of the board, in the west and in the east, and you can orient them towards yourself. If it were 2 players, they would probably be sitting to my left and right. They would orient their mats accordingly. And additionally, whenever there's a battle, you can slide those mats to face each other so that you see the lords in array, front, left, right, and their forces opposed to each other as they apply hits and rout and so forth. Or if you want to keep it even simpler than that, you can simply leave the mats where they are, and we'll also provide you a little simple battle mat, another 5-by-5-inch cardboard mat, and you just array the cylinders of the lords on the mat and play from there. Either way, it'll work well. So that's what these things are to the side and how we portray details about the lords as they levy their forces and fight their battles. The second aspect that I would like to talk about is what you see here along the top of the game board in these colors. This is the calendar, and it represents in 2 rows about 2 years of time, and each box on the calendar is a 40-day turn or 40-day campaign. And so it's a turn record track in the traditional sense, and also a general information track for things like victory points. But what's different about it is that it also tracks the service obligation of each lord, and if you want to play with this option, each of the lord's vassals as well, with these markers, which are service markers that will show when is that lord no longer obligated to stay in the campaign or incentivized to stay in the campaign. This temporal limit on how long a feudal lord would serve is an important aspect of feudal warfare, and somewhat more so than in modern war or total war situations where you're fighting to the end. And so players have to manage their lord's service, and the track, this calendar track and these markers, give us the opportunity to simulate all kinds of effects, such as if a lord's army is not being properly fed or suffers some adverse effect, then we can slide his marker on the calendar towards the current turn, showing that he's less likely to stay in the fight. On the other hand, if you pay him, or things are going well in terms of looting enemy resources and he can reward himself and his troops, then you can slide the marker in the other direction. And so we have a very dynamic simulation of this aspect related to time of feudal warfare. Finally, and briefly, I want to talk about how is it that lords go on campaign and maneuver across the map. And for that, there's a very simple set of command cards that players will select for their lords and arrange into a little stack. And as the campaign proceeds, alternate flipping over the top card of their stack. And what it means is that you have to think in advance in what order do you want to have which of your lords actually do something, and then you're committed to that order, if not to the moves. And this is a very quick and simple way of simulating aspects like poor communications over rough terrain, and also poor trust and a creaky system of military hierarchy among all of these somewhat independent feudal lords. So I hope you'll check out more details on GMT Games' P500 page for Nevsky and on Inside GMT. And until we meet again, well, na zdrowie, Prost und zum Wohl. Das Bier in die Früh. Herrlichkeit.